Hi, my name's Maria. Welcome to my channel MH Books. I'm working on a new lighting source. I'm not too happy with it yet, so we'll work on it. There probably is. I'm not using it correctly yet. This is a wrap up of 2 horror novels and a Gothic novel. And I'm going to ask you to bear with me. First of all, I only have time to film one of these. Then we'll have an intermission where we have a little bit of filming from Dublin. It's only about 30 seconds, it's grand, don't worry. And then we'll go back to the other books. But after the other books, I'll probably have my hair cut. So yeah, I might look slightly different. And my hair needs to be cut. So the work in progress on horror novels that I would like to talk to you guys about is why do I like them? So you're going to help me explore with me why I like them, and I really appreciate if other people who like to read them would comment and say why they like them, or if you want to, you can put up your own video saying why you like them or mention it in your video and get me to watch your videos. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a classification system of the books as we go. Marie's working this out as she goes. This is part of the working process, and what I think that I like about horrors and Gothic is 2 things, okay? And we're going to discover, is this true or is this something else? They have to have a setting and a sense of place, especially the Gothic genre. It is defined by its sense of place, actually, or a setting. That's what Gothic means, really, as far as I understand the term. Where you usually make people feel safe at the beginning of the book and then you scare the shit out of them. I'm never scared, but she scared the shit out of the characters. And the other thing is actually the characters themselves. You have to build up, for me, and this is definitely me, thrilling characters. Now I know there's another thing that people like, and which I call the roller coaster, which is the thrill of the scary scene, which I'm not as fond of, because there's a book I'm reading at the moment that has that, and I'm not getting much out of it because it doesn't have the other 2. It doesn't have the setting and the characters. I'm only 60% of the way through that book, and I'm waiting until I get to the end before I discuss it. But it will be in the next video. So, you know, we're going to work out what it is. So if there's 3 elements, have I missed an element? That's the first question. Have I missed an element? It's a setting, sense of place, making someone feel safe, and then scaring them, or the characters themselves. And the third one is, I should do it that way, shouldn't I? And the third one is the roller coaster effect of where the thriller bit of the horror novel, you know, the scary scene, you just relax there and boom, there's a dead body or whatever it is, okay? So yeah, okay, so this book would score high in all 3. So this is Summer of Night, Dan Simmons. It's based on Dan Simmons' own childhood in the late 1960s, I believe it is. The year is actually mentioned, it's in the book, obviously. He actually bases 2 of the characters on himself and his younger brother, and it's based on his own hometown. So this has a very strong sense of place. I would classify this book as a creature feature. Creature feature being there's a scary monster in the town or some type of scary ghost, whatever. And like Scooby gang, you will have to solve it. Half the people don't believe it exists. So you have to do it by yourself. It's actually like the premise of Jaws when you think about it. Most of the time didn't believe that the shark exists until it was too late. There you go. But the creature feature, that story, that essential story, normally based in an American town, normally young kids or young adults, or you know, people in their early 20s happen to do this and nobody believes them. Normally the losers gang, as in aka It and Stephen King's It, which I know the second movie is out soon, woohoo. So, the sense of place in this one. We have a small American town. We have cornfields, and the corn is growing. And as the corn grows, people's houses are hidden, and it adds to this sense of claustrophobia. That the houses are being hidden, and the people of the town are slowly being entrapped in this beautiful summer. Okay, it's beautiful, and then it rains, and then it's beautiful again. But during the summer, like a summer where everybody's off school, and this corn is growing, they're all getting trapped in their houses. And then, yes, a few of the horror scenes do occur in the cornfields, because what's better than a cornfield to have a horror scene in it. We also have an old school that's been there since the beginning of time, practically, for an American town. It's been there, I think, since the early 19th century, if I remember correctly. But it has a few older things in it. And it's huge, it's Gothic, it's leaning over the town, and it is the centre of all evil. Buffy fans would know this is, if you have a school in a town, it's probably the centre of all evil. So there's our setting. Our characters are based on the author's own childhood. I'm going to take out my notes for this because I forget people's names. So for the notes of this one, we have Dale and Lawrence, which are based on the character and the actual Dan Simmons and his younger brother. They have the usual story of this monster's under the bed. It's like very like the relationship the brother and the younger brother in it as well, by the way. The monster's under the bed, the monster's in the closet, parents not quite believing them, and the kids being right, there is a monster. This Dwayne McBride, who was a really, really good character in that there's a very complex relationship with him, with his alcoholic father, who at first you kind of go, oh, that's a horrible man, and you actually realise he's not. And as the time goes on in the novel, you realise that there's quite a complex, loving relationship between Dwayne, his father, and Dwayne and his uncle. And then we have Michael Rourke. Michael Rourke is essential. He's essential to the plot. We need a nice Catholic in this, because we're told by the old premise of, which will lead me into the next novel, is that Catholicism is quite central to a lot of horror novels and Gothic novels themes, in that if you think Bram Stoker, okay, now Bram Stoker's Dracula, so he was a Catholic as far as I know. It's Dublin anyway, so he knew Catholicism, and things like holy water and consecrated hosts, which only exist for Catholics, and Mike is the only Catholic in the book, so he's the only one who has access to this shit to fight the scary monster. So they're the only ones who seem to have something within their church to fight these religious things, and we'd have to say that was essential. That was part of the old-fashioned Catholic beliefs, that demons existed exactly as described in the New Testament, and that things like consecrated host, rosary beads, I was also taught, was a very good way to get rid of monsters. I mean, I was actually, quite legitimately told by somebody, by a nun, like, you know what I mean, that, if, a monster goes after you, try, use your rosary beads, and put it over their head, and that will stop them. But in this book, they use consecrated hosts to keep out the monster, and I won't tell you what the monster is. It might be a ghost, it might be a spirit. I won't tell you exactly what it is, because that's a spoiler. And so these are the sense of characters. They're based on real characters. It scores really highly. I did actually mark in my notes that it was a roller coaster read, which means that yeah, he did the thing a roller coaster did. It was, you know, the ramp up where it's slow and then it's like scary, and then you kind of go whew, and it's scary, scary, scary. So it does do that. So somebody who wants the thrill of a hard novel, you're definitely going to get from Summer Night, Dan Simmons. So Sky scores highly on all three things. It would be a 5 out of 5 star for me. So let's go to the clip of the next book. It's a clip of actually when I was about halfway through the book, and something that I did. Okay. Inspired as I'm just reading The Exorcist at the moment, about halfway through. So I've come to visit the Black Church, and legend has it that if you walk around the church 3 times just after midnight, you'll raise the devil and he will steal your soul. Why he wants your soul, I don't know. I swear, this book is after falling off the shelf on top of me. Okay, the next book is this one. It's The Exorcist, which is the ultimate possession novel. So number 1, what Maria's, it's not even number 1, it's Maria's category of horror novel possession books. This is the ultimate book. This is the one, it's like the Dracula of vampire novels. The one that spawned most of the books that we know about possession at the moment. So famous ones like this one as well. So you can be more famous than The Exorcist, but other ones. Paul Tremblay, Head Full of Ghosts. Grady Hendrix, My Best Friend's Exorcism. All these books have one thing in common amongst they're in their subgenre. Is the person actually possessed? This is the ultimate question. Are they just gone crazy? Are they making it up? Or are they actually possessed? And if they're possessed, what are they possessed by? Is it the devil? Is it a ghost? Is it a demon? Is it a demigod? And then, if they are possessed by, let's say, demigod, why? And how do we get rid of it? The ultimate possession, okay? Hopefully I got my lighting a bit better this time. So, The Exorcist are three categories so far that I've been working on. 1. Choose characters. What's 1? Setting. Okay. The setting for this book is in somebody's home. So the book revolves around, and the movie, for those who don't remember, because I'm assuming most people have seen, or at least have seen so many clips of it, okay? It revolves around somebody's house. And the possession is of a little girl who's 12 years old, and it's within the home. So she's sweet, she's innocent, she's at home. So can the ultimate evil not just invade your home, but invade your little girl? This is the setting. So the setting is important. That happens mostly around, and the possession itself, the girl is, again, as I said, these books are always about, is it real, is it not? So she's getting medical treatment as well as an exorcism, so she's getting both, and it's always it's at home, and that's important. Not in a hospital. The exorcist could have worked from a hospital as well, but no, it's from the person's home. I think that's essential, that, you know, the place where you feel most secure is the place that this happens. That's, you know, that's done for a deliberate reason. The other thing is the characters. Now, the characters in this book is a little girl. You don't see much ever from the little girl's perspective. You see it mostly from three characters' perspectives, but mostly from the mother's perspective, and one of the younger priest's perspective. And that's the point of character. Now, the way that Wheater William Peter Blatty, who wrote the book, he was a screenwriter first. He couldn't get work as a screenwriter because he was a comedic screenwriter. So he started writing the novel, and then just as he finished, he gets, according to the intro, he gets his job as a screenwriter. So he just throws off the book, and then this is him rewriting it 40 years later to improve a little bit on what he wrote, because he just kind of released the book to try and get money. But he's a screenwriter, and this tells through. So I'm going to show you two things about two of the characters, about the mother and what the younger of the priests. And also you're going to see, if you're like me, that this is definitely written by a screenwriter. You can actually, he's there in front of the face, showing the image of what the person does rather than what the person is thinking, what the characters are thinking. Which is an unusual way for me to read a character, because mostly authors get into, you know, their character's head, whether they be in third person perspective or first person, in their character's head, and you're feeling and hearing what they're thinking and feeling their emotions with them. In this case, it's more just there, just right in front of your face, like a close-up. You can tell he's a screenwriter, or at least that's my opinion anyway. This one is Chris the Mam, okay? So it's a scene, and you can almost see the scene. I can almost see the scene in my head of her doing this, okay? So it's very picture, and I really do think it's in front of Chris's face, okay? And you know, you can see close-ups of the scene. So she's at a party and she's serving drinks. Chris served liqueurs to her guests herself. It added an intimacy she felt that might otherwise have been lacking. Well, let's see now. I'll start with you, she said to the Dean and Mrs. Perrin. She served them, then moved among the room, taking orders and fetching from each of the guests. And by the time she had made the rounds, the various closets had shifted to make combinations, except for Dyer and the astronaut, who seemed to be getting thicker. No, I'm really not a priest, Chris heard Dyer say solemnly, his arm on the astronaut's chuckle-heaved shoulder. I'm actually a terribly avant-garde rabbi. So that's you know, a scene with Chris, and this is a scene with the priest, the younger of the two priests, Damien Karras, and he's a psychiatrist, and he obviously is also a priest, so he's the ideal person to have the huge debate in his head: is the girl possessed, or is she having a severe mental breakdown? Okay, but again, this is about how William Peter Blatty, I keep looking at his name, follows the characters around right beside them as if he's on a close-up rather than in behind in their heads. So, cupped in a warm green hollow of Georgetown University campus, Damien Karras jogged alone along an oval, cinder-covered track in khaki shorts and a cotton t-shirt drenched with the cling of healing sweat. Up ahead on a hillock, the white dome of the astronomical observatory pulsed with the beat of his stride, while behind him the medical school fell away with churned up shards of earth and care. Since release from his duties, he came here daily, lapping the miles and chasing sleep. He'd almost caught it. He'd almost eased the grief that clutched in his heart in the grip with the grip of a deep tattoo. When he ran until he wanted to fall exhausted, the grip grew much looser and at times disappeared for a time. So we're following, okay? So I do like the way that these this characterization is done. It is not the same as most authors would do. It's definitely a screenwriter's choice. But I think even just those little scenes gives you kind of like an insight into the characters of the mother who's having this nice, lovely, lonely life, having parties with academics and priests and astronauts. You know, she's a movie star, so that's quite normal for her. And a priest who's obviously having troubles, and you know, he's running every morning to try and deal with these things. So characterization, good. Plot style, is it the roller coaster? Do you get scares? Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie? Sorry, but have you seen the movie? Because this and the movie, not much different. There's one extra scene in the movie, and there's a hell of a lot more build up in these. So yes, roller coaster scare. in that you like, you got it, honey. So yeah, 5 out of 5 for The Exorcist. So there's that one. Next one is my Gothic book, but I think I can hear my oven timer, so I'll be back. Hi. Yes, I was filming and then I realised I hadn't actually turned anything on, and I had a great discussion up. Great review of the book. I'm sorry you missed it, but you're gonna have to do the second night one now. So the third classification is Gothic fiction. Gothic fiction is, I don't think my classification of Gothic fiction is too far away from the classic definition. So in Gothic fiction we have usually a central character, which is nearly always female, a plain Jane, literally called Jane in Jane Eyre. We have, so she's smart, she's intellectual. In Wankenhyrst, this is Maud, our young child protagonist who grows up over the course of the novel. It's a kind of a coming of age. And a few of these, actually Jane Eyre, you can actually see it's coming of age as well. So that's probably another common theme in them. We also always have this dark brooding man. Now in Jane Eyre, it's a love interest. In Wankenhyrst, it's actually the father. And then in these books, we tend to have this big house, which our female hero is trapped in the countryside, usually surrounded by something like moors of fens. In Wankenhyrst, it's the fens. The house is called Wake's End, and it's a long way from the town. So these are all central themes and essential to it. So this is what classification of Gothic is. Gothic is everything about the setting. So we're going to talk about the setting, which is number one of the things that Maria was going to talk about. So setting, without setting, there is no Gothic novel. That's the point of a Gothic novel, is the setting and the ominous atmosphere that the setting itself brings. Within this novel, we have, Michelle Paver has given us lots of more layers than we normally get in a Gothic novel. We have more than just the house. We actually have a church. And the local church has paintings for the medieval ages, which are covered. You're going to hear it in the little abstract that I read. And the church paintings have a painting that were covered up, include a doom, and the doom is central to the story. It's introduced in the beginning. A doom is a medieval painting where, because people in the Middle Ages couldn't read, it depicts what happens if you're bad, or if you're good. So if you're good, you get sort of Saint Michael and you go into heaven. But it concentrates on what happens if you're bad and the torments the devils will make you feel, okay? So the fact that this painting concentrates on this is going to interfere with the psychology of the father in the novel, okay? Because he's got reasons. This is all revealed as you go. I can't tell you, it'll be a spoiler. So this book does setting right. Without setting, you have no Gothic novel, okay? Setting is essential to a Gothic novel. You can get away without setting, perhaps in a horror novel, but you cannot in Gothic. Gothic, this is the point of a Gothic novel. It's this setting, this ominous atmosphere, being trapped. It's also essential to the category which I haven't spoken about yet, which is the haunted house one. If you had to be trapped in a haunted house, and for a haunted house novel as well. So this is a description of the church. It's in the opening of chapter 2. It's from Maud's perspective. We're doing third person here, but it's Maud's perspective, and she's a child at the stage. So, like the house at Wake's End, St. Guthlaf's church was a part friend and part foe. The outside was mostly foe. The tower had slitty eyes, and there were monsters snarling from the gutters. Worst was the stone crow near the porch. It perched on the head of a howling man, with its talons sunk in his eyeballs. Inside, what Maud feared most were the devils. They were carved in the font, the columns, even the ceiling. Father said that in the olden times they would also have been painted on the walls, but they had been whitewashed by the Puritans. Maud thought the stone devils were quite bad enough. So, even the church, the local church, is full of scary things. There's toads and things. It goes on further in the book. There's toads and things on their family pew and all the rest of it. So this is the setting particularly done well in Wankenhyrst. The Fens, which is important to this, is a scary setting for the father, okay, the dark man, but from Maud's perspective is a wondrous magical place, which gives an extra layer to this book, which you would normally find in a Gothic. It gives you this extra layer where she loves this bit and he hates it. Her father is religious in that he thinks that his faith structure should be imposed on everybody, and the servants shouldn't be superstitious and blah blah blah. Maud is grown up between the servants and her father and her mother, and she has a mixture of both, and she must decide which one she's going to go for by the end. But she's in love with the Fens, and the Fens is driving her towards nature, so it is driving her towards that pagan belief and away from the Christian belief. And kind of the conflict between the father and the daughter, because of these two different pulls of faith, and whether you love or hate the Fens, or you know what I mean, is an important theme of this book. The identifying, because Maud is going to be our heroine because this is Gothic. The identification with nature and the Fens is going to be just a foretelling of this character is going to be good, and that the two things go together. So this is the conflicts of our characters. So if character is important and you have to make me care about the characters to be afraid for them, was I afraid for Maud? Yes, and I wasn't terrified, but I was afraid for Maud. But as she grows up and she begins to understand who her father is, she begins to, as a part of the book, read her father's diary. And as an adult, I knew that her father wasn't what she thought he was at all. But she didn't. She was a child, and when she reads her father's diary and what he thinks, she grows up. And that's, you know what I mean, that is the ultimate scary thing. Yeah, there is slightly supernatural elements in this book. Things that may have a supernatural explanation or may have a logical explanation. This is part of Gothic novels. There's in this one a possible supernatural and a possible logical explanation. Most people read it and know which one it is. This one has something similar. So plot. So is it the roller coaster ride where you go scare, 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 which are like a really bing bang boom horror movie would do? No, this is a Gothic novel. It's going to follow the Gothic novel structure, and that it's going to creep up, give you glimpses into possible explanations to the Gothic mystery that's at the heart of it. It reveals something only to give you a little hint. Well, actually, there's more to it than that, and so you go, oh, and then you follow that bit, and then you go, oh, actually, there's more to it than that, and it may be supernatural, it may not be supernatural. Something else has actually happened. It's actually what happened in the first place, and you have to read to the end to find out. It keeps you reading to the end, and that's the plot structure to this. So I haven't got a roller coaster analogy for this yet, but I probably will have one eventually as I go along. So that is my review of the books. Sorry this video ended up being so long. I hope you enjoyed it. I recommend all 3 books. They're all 5 stars to me. And I hope whatever you're reading, be it horror, supernatural, literary fiction, historical fiction, contemporary, YA, whatever, that you're enjoying it. Bye now.